Hello, everyone. I am here with Stircore
Dominus.
and yeah, and
Convenient. Yeah.
yeah,
It's all right.
oh,
Carry on.
here we go. And that's we are discussing sort of ethics in mainstream journalism versus YouTube journalism, and I guess I'm sort of educating on what I know about journalism and ethics and stuff due to my education or whatever. And kind of a discussion on that. So what would you like to know specifically? Anything?
Well, I think it'd be good to start with like the standards that are in place when it comes to journalism in general, because I'm just here as a complete idiot when it comes to all of these things, because if I'm here to learn. So I want you to explain it like point by point, where like when we say like ethics and stuff like that, what lines do you not cross when it comes to journalism?
Well, see,
Supposedly.
Yeah. In a perfect world, yes.
Yeah.
See, most mainstream journalists, I'm not entirely sure like exactly who has and hasn't, but typically most mainstream journalists follow the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics, or at least they are, it's best if they do. And so this has a few little points on it, like seek the truth and report it. Ethical journalism should be accurate and fair. Journalists should be honest and courageous in gathering, reporting, and interpreting information. And a few things under that, such as never plagiarize and label advocacy and commentary. And never deliberately distort facts or context, including visual information. Clearly label illustrations and reenactments.
Distort context, Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's all that's on the back of my mind.
I'm pretty sure I would be willing to bet that the 3 Wall Street Journal journalists, they all are probably a part of the Society of Professional Journalists. So they are definitely they were not doing the best of job.
So they're part of that lot. What? So
Probably,
that means,
yes.
So do you think that means like the rules are malleable to them then?
Basically, yes. It's
so like this would be kind of would people part of the society, would they have more, I guess, leadership in the journalistic community, or be seen as I guess people to look to within the journalist community, or is it just not really like that at all?
I don't know. It's all a bit. It depends on your publication. Depends on where you are coming from, where you were taught, and all of that. And so it's really pretty subjective. It's typically they take it as a guideline, which is why a lot of these rules, quote unquote, are ignored entirely. The second point would be minimize harm. Ethical journalism treats sources, subjects, colleagues, and members of the public as human beings deserving of respect. Yes.
But there's a point that to be made though. It's like, where does hate speech come into that sort of thing, and how does that get defined if you're reporting, like if you're saying something is if someone accuses you of hate speech, how do you defend yourself if you know you're not doing hate speech?
Well, typically in America, at least the truth is typically the best defense in response to sort of hate speech, defamation, libel sort of defenses. If it's true, it's not regarded as hate speech. We obviously don't have the same kind of outlook on things as other countries do, especially in Europe, which follows more of a, I guess, feelings approach than America.
Feels over reals, brah.
Well, like, we've blasphemy laws in Ireland, which is pretty insane. So, like,
yeah.
What are your laws, meaning?
Some blasphemy laws that, like, old, but they're still there. Like, I mean, someone could probably see
Is that based
where,
on like Catholicism and all that
yeah,
sort of stuff?
Catholicism, like Ireland.
And
Okay, hold
yes.
on. I'm gonna come back and
Okay.
load up Firefox because of it. Yeah, because it's not very great on Chrome. Chrome's really bad.
But yes, that one of the problems with freelance journalism is that typically it's not as governed, I guess, or moderated as the as more as bigger journalistic outlets are, because typically, obviously, the best case scenario is that when you have a big news organization, it's you are edited and moderated by your colleagues, your editors, and the like, so that you can minimize the harm, minimize the subjectivity. And I mean, you are taught to edit yourself to make sure that you don't have to rely on your editors as much, but typically there are things in place to make sure that the stuff published and put out there is as objective as possible, minimizes the harm, does not break defamation rules or laws. But with the lack of, I suppose, ideological conflict, there's really no ideological conflict anymore. They're all sort of the same. A lot of that stuff ends up being lost in translation. So in a place like Fox News, they're not going to get as much, I guess, parody. In
would you call them Would you call them center?
Oh no.
Oh man.
Who said that recently?
I don't know.
Someone called them center.
Was
I
it
can't remember.
Cullen? I have a feeling it might have been Dave Cullen, but I can't remember.
Dave Cullen.
Yeah.
Or,
I think Dave Cullen probably. They're not. They're certainly not center. I think that I would have thought of this. I would have thought this more, a little bit ago. But the most center of all the cable news networks is CNN, but they've kind of skewed a bit lately. But I'd still charge that they're the most centrist of them all. But Fox News is heavily to the right. MSNBC is heavily to the left, and everyone who actually wants to get the real news has to look at both of them and kind of get migraines every single day.
Yeah, it's weird for me looking into RTE, which is like our government one, and it's reliable like 98% of the time.
Yeah.
So it's good in that respect.
Yeah.
Because they have to obviously answer to the instead of shareholders. I think what happens is, like, say, Fox News, where they're all right wing, they all have a narrative where they need to push. So they all just like, oh, things don't matter anymore because, well, we've a narrative.
Yeah. And the other thing is act independently, which is something that was broken a lot during the last election. Avoid conflicts of interest, and this also wraps back into the sort of candid sort of thing. Disclose unavoidable conflicts.
YouTube drama.
Refuse gifts, favors, fees, free travel, and special treatment, and avoid political and other outside activities that may compromise integrity or impartiality or may damage credibility, which basically don't be a political activist on top of trying to be an objective journalist, which is one of the problems I have with a lot of the alternative media. The ones on the obviously the ones on the left are very SJW kind of political activist, and then there's like Rebel, and they're very the opposite of that. And so they're basically political activists who call themselves journalists, who act like they're journalists, but aren't really too journalistic. in their
Is
practices.
that in place to stop, if it was in an ideal world and that was the way things should be, is that in place to stop people from becoming completely biased to one side?
Yes, it's to stop people from basically distributing propaganda for their own causes, despite despite acting as if and calling themselves objective, impartial journalists. Obviously, objectivity is something that is not easily found and done, but the goal is to be as objective as possible. And if you take gifts, favors, and special treatment from certain, say, advertisers or certain political parties, like going over to John Podesta's house for lobster risotto, that is breaking that rule across the board. It's
Right.
totally unethical.
Who
And
did that recently?
a bunch of journalists from a lot of different publications.
Okay. What, for like extra credibility points with Hillary or something?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. Here, deny favored treatment to advertisers, donors, or any other special interests, and resist internal and external pressure to influence coverage. Which is something that basically, obviously it's different if you're, say, reviewing a website. You need to, but if you need to make sure that you're as objective as possible. Distinguish news from advertising and shun hybrids that blur the line between the two. Prominently label sponsored content, which
Can.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's almost amazing as an atheist.
Be accountable and transparent. Ethical journalism means taking responsibility for one's work and explaining one's decisions to the public. Explain ethical choices and processes to audiences. Encourage a civil dialogue with the public about journalistic practices, coverage, and news content. That's something that's sorely lacking.
Is that
and
basically saying have open discussion between the public and the journalists?
Yes.
All
yes.
Right.
Which is something that is very much lacking, because it seems today that journalism, mainstream journalism, it acts as if they are a separate class entirely from the public, and in ways technically they are, because they're the ones informing the public and the public is being informed, but they aren't immune from being from getting information from the public about what they need to hear. And because that's one thing that journalism, mainstream journalism, lacked in the U.S. presidential election, because they did not they didn't look at the public. They didn't go through flyover country, as it's called, the Rust Belt states. They didn't look at the people and basically ask them individually, in a way, what they wanted to hear and what they wanted to know. They completely ignored that and went for their own thoughts instead of
there is one thing to that, say with alternative media, communication with your audience, you can tell what they want, so you might to them. And you see this obviously with YouTube. There's maybe that separation can be good at times because it keeps stopping from pandering to your audience.
Yes.
I was going to say that, do you think some journalists, not all, probably act like they've got some sort of vetting privilege, so that they don't take things seriously because of I'm holier than thou sort of attitude, because they have to vet things and they rely on that vetting process so heavily that any information that comes to them, they're sort of they don't take it on board as quickly as they should. Is that right?
Yes. I think that they, yes, I agree. I think that's actually that is something that does happen, that they don't really take, especially when it comes from certain different sources. If it comes from, say, a regular Joe or something like that, that they're more likely to accept information and give it more thought and more consideration than if, say, their information, if their information comes from, say, an expert or whatever, that they're more likely to listen to that and not just ignore it, as they typically.
That is understandable, though, because of there's probably more credence and more credibility to someone who has more qualifications because they've studied in that field. But it's kind of like, if you could explain to me the balance of deciding what's a good piece of information to report on versus what's a bad one, then that would probably set a good precedent.
Yeah. Yes. I've gone through the whole code of ethics, but that is something that is, I guess, widely accepted as a guideline for mainstream journalism. Those who have gone through the education process, who have gotten degrees, and who have been taught in a more traditional fashion. And that's completely different from the alternative media, most of which are either mostly activists without any formal education, which doesn't completely stop them from being good journalists, but it does take away some of that stuff that you would learn from learning journalism specifically. A lot of the things, a lot of the objectivity things, it is completely burned into you that you need to be as objective as possible. You need to always attribute things. You need to get both sides. You need to get everything and make sure that none of your stuff is opinion based. And I think both sides, both alternative media and mainstream, I think that both of them are lacking. But on the other hand, the mainstream media doesn't really have much of an excuse, while the other one does.
So, what would be the best skill or biggest difference you would see from someone who's went to journalistic school like you to someone who hasn't? What's the big skill you've gained personally from going to a school like that, where you learn about how to be a proper journalist, about ethics and all that?
Well, obviously, it does kind of take away. It does offer the possibility that the coverage or the person coming out of the school would be kind of skewed in a certain way, but I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm not sure.
It's fun.
I was going to ask quickly just about let me think. I'm just trying to phrase this correctly. So what do you think about independent YouTubers just taking it upon themselves, calling themselves alternative media, but with no one's being an editor to suggest maybe they're incorrect, or no one's there to stop them from their own confirmation biases? And would you say that borderlines on propaganda rather than actual journalistic integrity?
Well, obviously everyone has a right to do so,
yeah.
and to give out information that they, their opinion on stuff. But my opinion, I think that there should be more of a I guess editing process. I think that if you have a very large audience and you want to call yourself alternative media and an alternative take on news different from, say, what the mainstream media, say, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, etc., gives, I think that there should be more of a process. They should take it more seriously, because they don't really do. And I think that if you want to call yourself a sort of alternative media journalist, you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. I don't call myself a journalist. I call myself a journalist major. I'm a journalism major. I plan to be a journalist in the future, but I am mostly giving my opinion on things. with, you know, I get research and I give my opinion on things, my own specific take, which I think that if either you should make sure that you have a proper vetting process for your stuff and make sure that if you're going to be a, you know, call yourself a journalist, you know, an alternative journalist, then make sure that it is proper, like it's done in a professional manner, a more professional manner than a lot of times people take it. But I mean, the thing is that journalism in America, technically newspapers pre-Revolutionary War and until about the Civil War era, until the penny press, they were entirely propaganda. They were completely propaganda for a cause. There was the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists and all in between. And
it sounds
so,
similar to like the current like thing that's going on at the
basically,
moment.
yes.
Like the anti SJWs versus SJWs shit.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, and you know, there's, you can't really discredit that. That sort of journalism has given a lot of has accomplished a lot, but it was certainly not calling itself objective. It was completely propaganda, and I mean, basically, I mean, in my opinion and in a few people's opinions, it was what really fueled the Revolutionary War from starting, or to start. It kind of fueled that, and so it
it's a
did
gaslight.
Yeah, yes, it serves a cause. It certainly does, but in this day and age, if we're not trying to say overturn a government or you know, rally people to a cause, then it's doesn't really have much of a use. I think that showing, and that's why it fizzled out. That's why it stopped being what it was. That's why, you know, objectivity began being a thing in the 18th century, or not, in the 19th century. And so that's they started giving more information, and the reason for what a lot of, like, obviously the way journalism is now is influenced by the history of journalism in every other country, and all the countries have really bled into each other. And so I mean, it what we have now is kind of a mix between the propaganda aspects, the objective penny press sort of thing with the sensationalism. We've got yellow journalism kind of thing. And
could you explain yellow journalism just quickly?
Yellow journalism was a phenomenon in the latter half of the 19th century and the early half, or the early parts of the 20th century, that was between Pulitzer and Hearst, William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, two major newspaper owners. And the reason why it's called yellow journalism is because of this cartoon called The Yellow Kid that that both newspapers used in their publications. But it was a war of sensationalism between those two papers for views. Basically, it was a clickbait. It was the old clickbait.
Ye old clickbait.
Yes, and it's thought by some to have contributed to the start of the Spanish-American War, and a lot of other things. It was a very dark time for objectivity.
So do you think that media is sort of like the gaslight before something big?
Typically, yes. I mean, obviously, the weapons of mass destruction thing was what caused the Iraq War, and you know, and media does inform people. That's what it's there for, and so, you know, sometimes they inform people wrong, and sometimes they inform people right. It's really, it depends on who's running the media at the time. But what journalism is now is basically an amalgamation of a whole host of different parties of journalism. There's investigative journalism that came and rose within the 60s and 70s with Watergate, and then and then a newer thing called progressive journalism that that is kind of a, obviously is using the word progressive.
Yeah, it's kind of negates the meaning of having journalism, doesn't it? In such a way, in some ways, because like if you put like progressive in front of things, it's kind of like there's something wrong with the original premise.
Yeah, you want to change it. And what progressive journalists strive to do, and that's actually unfortunately what's being taught a lot of times in journalism schools. Not the objective method, not the objective method of journalism, the inverted pyramid, which is a method of disseminating information, the most important stuff at the top and then the least important stuff at the bottom, and completely abandoning that for trying to push a certain narrative, which is a problem because that's definitely not objective. And people still seem to think that a lot of times they are being objective when in reality they're not really. But
would you say objective stops when scientific facts come to light, or like historic facts come to light? When is it objective for a journalist? Like, because when I think of objective, I think of like scientific, like fact checking and that sort of stuff.
Well, I think objective is, in regards to journalism, objective means, telling both sides of the story equally. It's not an easy thing to do by any means, and it takes a lot of practice to know how to do it properly, which is why it's typically not practiced. But it's typically just telling both sides of the story without bias, and bias can bleed into. It's not just being very obviously biased. There's how you can kind of leave out information to kind of push a certain narrative, like say leaving out certain facts so that a certain side looks better than the other. And so that is bias in journalism. It's objectivity is mostly just making sure that your biases are kind of left at the door, checked at the door, so that you don't, it doesn't bleed into everything that you write.
Yeah.
You just give the facts, which is something that is pretty, strangely enough, it's pretty odd in the world. A lot of times journalism is done from a sort of more progressive narrative sort of way.
So like op-eds mostly.
Yes. It's called literary journalism, I suppose. I think that's the word. It's a sort of thing that American journalism, objective American journalism, has bled into other countries, and other countries have bled into America, and so that's what we have this. Why we have this sort of. It's kind of a bastardization of both.
Yeah.
Thank you, Egalitarian, for the $2, and I'm not going to say that. Sorry.
What was that?
I just saw what he said.
Yeah.
Wow.
But thank you for the $2. I appreciate it.
I'll say it if you want.
Sure.
Egalitarian. Yep. There's now, right?
If your mic works, you can say it.
Fucking hell.
But yeah, I mean, I have.
Say it.
What was it?
He said that to say, quote, "The Jews did 9/11," end quote.
Oh, so edgy. Well done.
So edgy.
So edgy.
Worth $2.
But $2. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so edgy. The edgy clap. But yeah, I was just going to say, like, people like Philip DeFranco, I have a bit of respect for, because he actually hires like a couple of people to help him edit, and actually takes his
Yes.
journalism pretty seriously. I mean, I don't know if he's got any journalism qualifications.
No,
Does
I
he?
don't believe he does, but he does have the spirit, and that honestly, I mean, the fact of the matter is that these days, with the internet, with the easy access to information, it only takes I mean, obviously getting the education is a help, but but the spirit is really the most important thing. As long as you try to be objective and try to fact check, and you kind of know how to, and kind of basically admit that you don't know all the answers, and that you know, and make sure that people know that you do, you know, that you're not perfect, and you can make mistakes. I think that that's what's most important, especially in alternative media. I think,
sort of like aware of your own biases and letting other people know
yes.
about them.
And of course that is very hard, because sometimes it's not at all obvious what biases you have, and where what biases you have in what certain categories. Sometimes it's hard to, you know, to figure out what shortcomings you have in certain subjects. But as long as you make sure that you try as hard as you can to at least know that you don't know everything, and that you aren't perfect, I think that is the best option. Because I mean, that's one thing that I think that Philip DeFranco does have, is that he admits that he doesn't know everything, and that he doesn't, and that he's far from perfect.
Yeah.
And so thank you to the Batman for the, I guess, two of something. I only know America, okay?
Was it like £2 or two yen?
Two of something. My head is.
It was pounds.
Okay, pounds.
So that's probably going to work out at like what, $1 now.
I have no idea.
But yeah, that's probably going to be like, you know, like $3.50 maybe.
Yeah.
So let me think. I was just thinking about like what about like journalism when it has to compete against like the clickbait articles that were rising from, like, I think it was from like the late 90s or early 2000s onwards. Do you think that changed the journalism platform for a lot of people? Because if I can see that if you go onto a lot of people's websites, they want you to sign up to a subscription, or they don't want you to just have a look at the articles anymore. They want you to like pay in advance for them, for their journalistic integrity. But when they do report, some of the stuff that they report back on isn't that all great, because of the clickbait stuff goes quicker. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think that I think having a paywall, it does. I mean, they say that, you know, theoretically it's supposed to help ethics and help the integrity, but typically it just ends up being a way for them to I guess get more money. But yes, the Wall Street Journal still they still participate in clickbait, despite the fact that they have a paywall and everything that they do. And so I think that is a major problem, and it's something that has happened many different times within journalism, and it's something that each time doesn't have a clear-cut solution to it. So I believe that, I mean, it needs to be addressed. It's a problem that needs to be addressed, because with the clickbaity kind of stuff, you're never going to get the objective facts for things, because, you know, it's all going to be clickbait. You know, it's going to be this exposed or whatever.
Yeah, but I usually see like a title that really makes me want to read it, and then I get to the article itself, and then you've just got a massive picture and then 2 lines, and then see next article, and I'm just
Basically.
like, what? Yeah, like that's happened to me so many times. It's probably happened to so many other people so many times as well, and then
Yeah.
you got all of the like traditional journalistic places like the Guardian or maybe the BBC and or all of the established places. They're trying to compete with that, but they know they can't, so they're kind of going down the same road as well, a little bit.
Yeah, and it is hard because advertisers don't want to advertise with traditional journalistic outlets anymore. They are much more likely to advertise with clickbaity kind of thing because they get more clicks, they get more people watching their ads, and so that is a problem in that that you don't get as much revenue. And that's certainly the traditional media, the old guard is basically in a state of dying out, and that's why they do the clickbaity kind of stuff. That's why they do the kind of thing that they did with PewDiePie, because it got a lot of eyes on Wall Street Journal. It turned out not to be very good eyes, and it turned out to be very bad for them, I believe. I don't believe it's going to reflect well in their numbers, but that is a problem in that traditional media is dying, and local newspapers and more localized kind of stuff is dying out, and that is a problem. So
do you think that that the clickbaity stuff is contributing to the rise of people speaking out on YouTube because there's more content to grasp?
Yes, I think so. Yes. I mean, obviously,
if you have a video, you've got a lot more material in there than like a couple of paragraphs, or like it's just a paragraph, or even less than a paragraph, a couple of lines and a photo. So I think that's probably contributing to everyone shifting over to that sort of side of things.
Yeah.
But then you've got the issue of journalistic integrity, which is difficult to balance. It's like a balancing act, the way I see it, because if you've got journalistic integrity, which is expensive because it's time consuming, and time is money, and then you've got people on YouTube just speaking up and shouting as loud as they can, and you're kind of like, well, where do I go for my trusted news source?
Exactly.
And that's the current state we're in, I think.
Yeah, I think that they do feed into each other, and journalistic integrity is like you said, very expensive to hold on to, and that's why I think, I mean, I don't agree with state-run media at all. I believe that it's not a good thing to have as one specific for your country's news, the news that your country gets. But I think internationally it does work out typically. Like we have the whole we have the Voice of America in America. We have we have the Voice of America, as well as it's a whole. Sorry, I'm getting my notebook so I can get the list. It's under a certain government entity called it's under the Broadcasting Board of Governors. It's an independent federal government agency that supervises all U.S. government-funded civilian international broadcasting, which they have Voice of America, Al Hurra, Radio Sawa, Radio ETV Marti, Cuba, and so I think that sort of state-run media, but that is a problem. Is that obviously there's a turn in that with privatized broadcasting companies or news companies, you have that need for a bottom line. You need to make sure you keep your profits, and so you don't, lose money and go bankrupt and close down. And so but then you also have state-run media where it's basically just an arm of the government, and so.
So like with the government stuff, that could be easily corrupted, because you could have people who have like a particular message that they want to get out to the public that they would have to run from on high.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then you've got on the other side of it as well, like if you've got people who are heavily invested in one side of an argument, like Fox News, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe other people on YouTube as well, if they've got like a heavily invested swing to one side, then and that's giving them their financial income, then it's going to be hard for any of those people to switch positions.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the amount of income that they have given to them by people who think the way they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's the way that certain state-run entities are like Russia Today, that is completely in the control of the Russian government. That is, it's basically Putin's PR firm, and so that's why you can't trust RT on anything. But
they make him look like such a saint. they make Putin look like such a saint on his on like, oh, it's like Putin did nothing wrong.
Yeah, basically.
Pretty much the whole thing is that every time Putin comes up, it's sort of like he's at a board desk, he's like making all these executive decisions, and he's looking like a proper boss, like a mafia don.
Yeah.
And everyone's just sitting around going, yay, Putin, and everyone's just saying, well, Putin did nothing wrong. And then all the other topics are basically bashing all the other governments.
Yes.
And just making fun of them. I've watched a bit of like RT. I thought it gave a different perspective though than the usual stuff, and that felt like I could trust it a little bit more because it was bringing other things to light that the mainstream media wasn't. So I felt like it gave a different perspective, but it's just as biased, it's just in the other direction.
Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. It's certainly not something that you can trust, especially on a lot of subjects involving the Russian government, and so that's the problem with state-run media. That's the problem, is that you've got, it's basically half a dozen of one and six of the other, because you've got the clickbait and the need for profit on one hand, and you've got the influence of big government on the other hand, and so you really can't trust either. If we're being honest here, sometimes it feels like you can't. But and so that's really a problem in that. I mean, obviously, you want to get as much information as possible. You want to have people be able to get as much information as possible with as much objectivity as possible from one source. That's obviously the best case scenario, so that nobody's getting one side of the story and not the other. From, say, Fox News, they're getting both sides of the story. But that is a problem because the way things are now, it takes a whole host of different news organizations to read and to watch to get all sides of the story, or even half of a story, because all sides are biased. They're rooting for their own teams, and so it's hard to get.
Do you think they're mainly rooting for their own teams because of the financial support that they get, or is it because of the message comes first?
I think in certain cases it's because of the message. I think in Fox News's case, I think that it's more profit driven. I believe that there are certain entities that are more or less, they actually believe what they're spewing. Like the Young Turks, I think that they believe what they're saying. But I don't think, and I think InfoWars definitely believes what they're saying, which is pretty crazy to think. But I think
I have it from like a couple of friends removed who's been like on Skype with Alex, and apparently Alex is just purely an act.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently,
yeah, I'm not that. I wouldn't be that shocked if that was true, but I think it's.
I can't 100% confirm that, but like that's what I've heard.
I wouldn't be shocked for that, but I think that they truly do believe their right-wing leaning side of things.
Oh yeah. I think what's happened is that the hyperboles got so big and the lies got so big that they just run with it because they know they can, and it's just entertaining for themselves.
People still watch. I want to see how many people they can have believe that the frogs are turning gay.
You need your Berkey water fillers to stop the gay frogs.
Yeah.
But what would your ideal situation be, or your ideal news network, or your ideal how, if you were like at, like, let's say you were a journalist at the head of a news network, how would you run it if you could stick to the codes of integrity, or what was it called? Sorry,
code of ethics.
Code of ethics. That's it. Yeah. So
Well,
how would you run it? Like, how would you not get influenced by like advertisers and sponsors and things, still keep the money flow coming in?
Well, you follow the time old separation of editorial and business, because that is something that newspapers did and have done for a long time, but it's kind of, obviously with this new media they haven't learned that yet, because it was a gradual process for newspapers, because they learned, I think around the 18th century, or 19th century, wrong way, that they needed to not be influenced by their advertisers, because it's not usually very obvious when a certain publication is influenced by advertisers. It's more or less tailoring content so that they make the advertisers look good, or they please the advertisers. But if you make sure that your advertisers know there is no mixture between your editorial and, it's the editorial and business side, there's no mix between your news, your specific news, and your advertising. There's no mix at all.
So would that be would that be contractual before anything started then?
Yes.
So you, like, I have a contract that sets up so that you can't influence me for what I write, but we do provide space for you to advertise. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And of course it doesn't really manifest itself in a lot of different, it manifests itself in multiple different ways, such as pulling out advertising if you don't like what the newspaper says, or which is, but and also it manifests itself in contractual things, such as with Candid. So I would, that is the ideal way of doing things, especially I think on YouTube. I think that needs to be done. I don't care if you are, you say you aren't, giving news. If you are a, influencer, I think that you need to not be influenced by certain companies, especially if your ideological bend goes completely against the advertisers' advertising. So I think that that needs to be a push. I think that, and I hopefully that's what's happening with this whole drama. Hopefully that is kind of turning the tide. But my ideal situation would be basically a mixture of a bunch of people who ideologically hate each other coming together to give news, which would be, hard to do. People for an equal number of people from the left, equal number of people from the right, who both.
Yes, I think most of this is just a lack of communication and education.
Yeah.
Because if you're educated, then you can take on an argument and you can discuss it. And if you're not good at communicating and you just sit in your corner and just and you're just like shouting at everyone from afar rather than engaging and then coming together and just trying to solve things amicably.
Yes.
Then if you're not trying to do that, then it's just going to cause friction, and then the friction just like snowballs and generates by itself. And I prefer it if you could get people from both sides that could just come together, even though they know they disagree. They're just going to have a laugh doing it, rather than taking it all personally. It's kind of like I'd liken it to how religious people get offended when you attack them for believing in something when they can't separate the belief and their person.
Mhm.
So it's kind of similar in respects to that sort of journalistic side, because if it's like being attached to the left as your identity or attached to the right as your identity.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a downfall of identity politics. You believe in
Yeah.
politics based on your identity. You believe that, there's a very strong connection between your politics and who you are as a person, or who you identify as a person. You believe that every criticism of, policy that you say is a criticism on you as a person specifically, because you put so much of a
It's almost like a personal attack rather
Yes.
than going, I can take that blow and just
Yeah.
separate yourself a little bit, like being a bit more abstract from what you believe, rather than being completely, this is how I believe and nothing's going to change me, and if you attack me then I'm going to fucking punch you or something like that.
Yeah.
it should be like look at the idea, examine it, and then take on criticism, and if their criticism is valid, maybe change your position slightly.
Yeah.
It should be that way around.
Yes. Thank you to Russell. I'd love to see Uyghur Jones NewsHour. Yes, I would love to see and Alex Jones.
To be fair, just to backtrack on what I've said, that would be funny to see them in a Jello ring.
Oh my, yeah. Yes.
just with like in like a sumo outfit, just having a go at each other.
That would be crazy.
That would be pay-per-view. I would pay for that shit.
Oh, I would pay premium money for that. But I think with the YouTube side of thing, one thing with the the whole community, I think that
community.
Oh my gosh, I get triggered every single time. But I think that one of the things that needs to happen more often is amicable disagreements and discussions about different topics. Because I am not left wing, and yet I still want to discuss with people who are left wing. I want to discuss things amicably. I want my ideas to be challenged, strongly. I want it to be savage, because I think that that's the only way you can learn as a person. I think that if you only hang around people of your own ideological positions, then you're never going to learn anything.
It's just an echo chamber, isn't it? After
yes, yeah, and that's exactly what should be avoided, because that's exactly what the left turned into. That's what they made and crafted their own echo chambers based on their ideological positions, and I think that's unfortunately what's starting to happen within this sphere of content, the anti-sphere. And I think that what needs to happen more often, and that's why I try to build connections with the very hardcore SJW type, so that maybe someday I can convince him to talk about the political stuff and have it be completely objective, and have it not be personal, and have them not cry about it later and give rape apologies labels.
Well, that's the thing. These kinds of people from previous history, from what I understand, they don't really take on debate that much.
Yeah.
They refuse. Like I know I'm generalizing. There are some people, like hashtag not all, but like there's the most majority of people that I've come across, they either refuse debates outright, or when they're on debate, they don't follow a logical train of thought.
Yes.
And or they subvert it somehow because it goes against how they feel.
Yes.
I've seen that happen quite a few times.
And that is a problem, because I think that to really come to really progress and actually make progress in life, You need to have conflict. You need to debate things. You need to talk about things. You need to duke it out, I suppose, would be a way of saying it. I think that that is a very important thing that I think is very much lacking within this community. And I think that it's double-sided. And I think that, well, and there's a problem that it's come out very, very recently because 2016 was a very tumultuous year for politics. And so and everyone stopped being specifically anti-SJW, and they kind of split into two different camps, you know, right wing and left wing, pro-Trump and anti-Trump, I suppose. And
I would say like it was more pro-Trump than any.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I just I don't know too much about this, but I will say that like I can see there's a massive like halo effect around Trump. Do you know what I mean by halo effect?
Yeah.
Like the bias of like the bias of seeing like someone that can do nothing wrong. And no criticism will be laid against this person because of they've got like an angelic sort of presence.
yeah, seriously. And I think that that's one thing that certainly one thing that Sargon has a problem with, because he barely ever criticizes Trump. And I think it's not because he thinks that he's a great guy or great politician. I think it's mostly because he's bound by the, I guess, conflict aspect of it all. He sees the SJW types going against Trump, and he thinks that he needs to be against the SJW types in everything, and so he goes against them. But then that ends up having him be pro-Trump in ways, and so that is it does become a problem. And I think that, but I think that there's something it's come out lately, and I've noticed it because I make sure to engage with both sides. I make sure to engage with the more right-wing and more left-wing sides of this sphere of content, the skeptic sphere. I make sure to associate with both sides, because I don't think that there is enough of that. I think there's a lot of bad blood, and I don't even think it's conscious bad blood. In some ways it is, in some ways it's not. And I don't think a lot of people really realize it. But I want to be a sort of bridge between the two sides, so that there can be a discussion, and so people can hash it out. Because
that's very admirable.
Yeah, because I don't, obviously, no one's going to agree on things, and ever. No one's going to. Not everyone is going to agree on anything, 100% of everything, but at least maybe there can be some sort of communication, because right now I think that is causing a lot of the problems. No communication. I think that there is a demonizing of, there's a demonizing of two different sides. There is, from both sides in a lot of different issues, such as the Candid issue. There's demonizing of those who are, pro sponsorships, such as the ones by Candid. And there's a demonizing of the anti. And so
well, it's kind of like, you're crying over what's the term? You're crying over spilled milk about, your advertising being cut. And then you've got other people sticking up for that just because, not because of, they're not rallying against the ideas of ethics on YouTube, which is, I find the parallels between the ethics in Gamergate and the ethics of this Candid stuff, and the kind of hypocrisy that goes along with being pro Gamergate, but then and then pro Candid.
Yes.
It's kind of like it's such a double standard, but like it's so glaringly obvious. How can anyone not see it?
Yeah, it's it's kind of, history repeats itself if you aren't careful. And that's one of the things that's really causing a tear. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I hate the word community in the way that a lot of people use it, because it's like, mom and dad are fighting. And when in reality, mom and dad basically don't believe hardly any of the same things.
They're getting a divorce.
Yeah, they're basically they're starting to they're just about to sit you down and start talking about how mommy and daddy aren't going to be together anymore because mommy and daddy hate each other. And daddy is off having sex with prostitutes, and mommy is a prostitute, and so
this is going a bit far.
yeah.
But yeah, I really don't like that when people go, "Oh, mommy and daddy are fighting."
Yeah, and you.
What is that about? What is that
Yeah.
about? People should be having fair sport. If someone says some stupid shit, including myself, they call me out on it, and I'll be like,
Yes.
fair enough. You know,
Seriously.
like if anyone says stupid shit, I'll call them out on it. I don't give a fuck. Like if someone tries to keep perpetuating like a narrative, even though it's kind of baseless, I'll be just like straight on that. My bullshit detector is tripped. Now you're fucked.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's all that has to be. And someone could do the same thing to me, and I would respect that.
Yeah.
If they could point out accurately where I've gone wrong, because then I can learn. And like if I don't get pointed out accurately where I'm wrong, then I'm not learning. So I want to learn. My main purpose of setting up my channel was twofold. Mainly to just like, you know, have brain farts and just like have like an idea and then just spew it out into the world just to see what would happen. And secondly, just for personal growth, because I want to learn about topics that I'm not like too educated on, like this journalism thing. That's the point of this hangout, because I really wanted to learn more about the ethics in journalism, especially after my interest in Candid and the way things are going towards YouTube being possibly a viable source for journalism. I mean, especially when you've got like Rebel Media and the Young Turks and Alex Jones, and I mean, like, they're not credible, but they are getting notoriety, and it's hard to say if they have that journalistic integrity or not, because of I don't know if, like, what's that name, Ezra from Rebel Media. I don't know if he's got qualifications as a journalist. I don't know if like Alex Jones has qualifications as a journalist.
Most of them do not. I mean, Paul Joseph Watson doesn't. Lauren Southern doesn't. Lauren Southern is younger than me, and she's and so certainly she's not qualified. You know, they're only qualified by experience, and that it is a viable way to gain knowledge, but it's certainly not the best way if you want to have an even-handed education on things. And so that is a problem. I think that there needs to be a push for.
Well, I think a good way around it, and I know this sounds maybe a little bit draconian, but like a good way around it would be to have YouTube have a vetting process if you claim to be a journalist.
Yes.
Like if YouTube says, "Oh, you're going to set yourself up as a journalist, are you? Okay, so you need to like show that you can live up to these standards." But then you need someone on YouTube to be able to vet that. So it's kind of like more legwork. But if that's the rate of where media is going, it has to happen. Otherwise, it's just going to be like iffy everywhere.
Yeah, I believe that there should be. I think that there should be, you know, I don't know what the proper solution would be. Maybe a media conglomeration of different, you know, checks and balances with, you know, different media outlets. You know, I think that there should be more conflict. I believe that I think that there should be a little bit more conflict between different outlets with different ideological bends, because without it, they're just echo chambers. Because and there should be more communication, and not hidden, you know, under the table communication. Very transparent. There also needs to be more transparency on all sides of media. I believe that transparency is the best way to do things. And I understand that it can't always be that way, but I believe that striving for that is certainly a admirable thing. but I think that there should be a push for more vetting with online media and alternative stuff. And I don't know how to do that. I believe that it could be with a more independent media fact check organization with an even hand of both, right and left wing, and a mixture between everyone. But I don't know how that would happen. I certainly don't have all the answers.
That is probably on like, if we're just like hypothesizing, it'd be just like on the basis that if you on YouTube and you claim you're a alternative media, or you claim that you're a journalist. You see what I mean? I mean, alternative media is probably a bit like overstretched, because anyone can be alternative media, because media is nearly everything that's produced. But like, if you claim to be like a newsworthy sort of place on YouTube, there should be a vetting process for that.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe yes.
Because that validates your position of actually trying to get a qualification in journalism. Yeah, because of like what I don't mean to be rude, but like it'd be like, what's the point of going to a university?
Yeah,
what's the point of going to a university, studying to be a journalist, when all you could do is just open up a YouTube channel and then just start like getting sources here and there and not knowing how to process them properly.
Yes. Yeah, I think that and
I mean, I don't want to bring down a crushing reality blow, but just like
yeah,
but like I'm sure you probably do like a better job than 90% of people on YouTube, like, because you know what to do, you know the procedures, you know what's bad information and what's good information. And that brings me on to the next topic, is sort of like, what research tools are you currently learning that helps you decipher good articles from bad ones? If you're like, if you're Googling for a topic, or if you're trying to find decent information or decent sources.
Well, you look for you obviously look at the specific outlet. The outlet is very important, and you need to get a mixture between, you need to get a good mix of all the different kinds of outlets to make sure that you have kind of a full work of all the different sides. And you also need to look and see whether or not they have primary sources, which is directly from the source, say press release or an interview, or secondary sources, as in like, well, I'm not sure if a press release would be a primary. I'm not really sure exactly what you named these, but we need to look at the sources, and if, say, they just got all of their information from a press release or another news source, then that's not. You need to make sure that you have a good grab bag of different sources where the people get the information from, and sometimes you can't get that from one certain outlet. You can't get you can't get a perfect mix at all from all the outlets, or whatever, from one outlet. You need to look at all the different outlets and make sure that you get a good mix of where the information is coming from, and make sure it's coming from credible sources. Make sure it's coming from, say, and make sure that that it's kind of hard. You need to make sure that you get all sides and it's from the right places. Because a lot of times, typically, it ends up being a lot of opinion. And so you need to make sure that if you're going for strictly objective facts, then you need to make sure it's not one of those opinion-based news sources. And so they need to attribute everything.
Yeah, so everything you say has to be backed up by a source, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing not backed up by maybe a quote by a certain person, or a press release, or a fact source, or whatever. make sure that everything is distributed so that nothing
I can't stand Harvard referencing. I can't.
Yeah.
I used to do that at uni. Oh, Harvard referencing, such a ball ache.
Yeah, AP style, which is what I have to do for, I've had to do for one of my classes, and I unfortunately didn't get a good grade in that class, and so due to my stupid teacher being anti-me,
What happened?
he did not like me at all, and so I ended up I ended up basically, I didn't fail, but I didn't get a.
Did you butt heads? What happened?
Yeah, I just don't know why he didn't like me. So I tried to bond with him, but I'm taking another professor in the summer, so I can take the class because it's vital. But it's AP style, which is not APA. It's Associated Press style, which is a very specific rule-based system that you have to have there's a whole style book, basically a textbook full of sources that you need, or certain rules that you need to follow in order to properly do AP, which is a problem because I usually get distracted and I can't really remember to do that all the time. So you need to make sure there's a lot of attribution that's basically, and also get a good mix of sources. You get interviews with people, you get, cold
So you
facts.
basically want like a lot of things that corroborate the same thing, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because then if you're corroborating the same thing, then you've got more places of evidence that it's possibly true. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it depends on the story. Obviously, if you're just going for, reporting that something happened, then less stuff is needed. If you're going for a full investigation, you need to make sure that you have, if you need academic sources, then get academic sources, make sure they're backed up with, peer reviewed and all of that stuff. And so it is difficult. Obviously, one of the benefits of having of being in a mainstream outlet is that you do get access to a lot of different sources that a lot of people don't, because it's basically it's you have to pay for them. Like the Associated Press gives access to, you have to pay to get access to the Associated Press their stories, so that you can. The Associated Press is obviously a news whatever, it's, I can't remember the word. It's like Reuters and all those different places, and so it's just the raw story, so that news outlets and say your newspaper in Oregon, and you want to report on a story that happened in Cairo, you don't have to send a reporter to Cairo to report on it. You get it from the Associated Press.
Right.
So a lot of times, more mainstream news sources have access to that. Of course, anybody, if they pay, can get access to that, but it obviously small alternative media channels on YouTube don't have access to that. And so that's obviously an issue. But
do you have to put it in terms like journalistic street cred to actually access those APs then?
No, well, you pay for it. It's basically it's paid
it's sort of like how you pay for peer review.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you pay for access to all of it, and so that you can get access to the basically cold hard facts in a lot of different stories, so that you can report on them from your own paper or channel.
Okay.
And so that's why you see a lot of, the Associated Press reports, or, Reuters reports, sort of things.
So what do you think of the current state of YouTube, as in journalism and ethics, and how people are portraying like news stories and things? What's your take on it as like a trainee journalist?
Well, I think that there needs to be more objectivity. Obviously, you know, how much is a question, and I don't know the answer to that. But I believe that there should be more of a push for objectivity. I think that it's a product of the environment, and it's a product of what's going on in the political discourse. But I think that it's very ideologically biased and leaned, and so a lot of the things. So obviously, the Young Turks is very progressive, and Rebel is very conservative, and so there
isn't much, like Philly Dean might be the middle ground.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Is that if you only have one that you can think of that's more or less objective, then
I can't
that's
think of any others. Can you think of any other people that act like that actually have like teams of researchers?
No,
other than those three.
No, I can't really. That don't have a very, very heavy ideological stance. I mean, obviously, InfoWars is very entertaining, but they're bonkers when it comes to ideology, and so you can't really trust barely anything that they say. Unless, of course, you get it backed up from another source that is against them ideologically, which is why looking at I think I don't know who it was, but I saw someone say that they basically drive themselves crazy by looking at both InfoWars and the Young Turks for their information, because then they get
what do they expect? What do they expect?
Yeah, but they do get both sides, because if they meet in the middle on some certain facts, then they certain sorry, something in the chat distracted me.
Okay.
But if they meet in the middle for certain things, then obviously that's more likely to be true. If InfoWars and Young Turks agree on something, and it probably must be true.
So I'm just having a look at the chat, and it's pretty cancerous because no one's actually discussing the topic.
Oh yeah, you got Grizz, Frank, Adams are fake, and nukes are fake.
Oh, this is hilarious.
Space is fake.
Oh god.
So that's fun. My chat typically ends up being pretty cancerous. I don't know why. I don't like it, but it's what happens. I haven't yet. I haven't yet gotten to I haven't yet gotten to the point where I'm getting the swastikas, which now that I say that, I probably will. But I do have Holocaust deniers, and they're fun.
Oh really? You have Holocaust deniers?
Yes, I have. I have Holocaust.
Genuine.
Well, genuine as far as I can tell. I mean, this person, if they're a troll, they're a very dedicated troll.
Do they have like their YouTube channel like dedicated to it as well?
Well, they have very long playlist of likes that I've looked through. that is about white nationalism and stuff. So it's fun.
Oh god. It's fun to watch them like tear themselves apart, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I at least once, this is the time when it did, at least once, I get, usually it's by a troll, I get to the suggestion to watch The Greatest Story Never Told, a 6-hour documentary telling Hitler's side of the story.
Oh god.
So
do I have that to look forward to?
Yeah. If I could get someone to also hate themselves as much as I do, I could possibly 6 hours long. 6 hours long.
After that, you're a born again Nazi, right?
Yeah, basically.
So what do you think about like going forward? Where actually, I was going to ask you, where do you see yourself with the journalism? What do you like? Do you think that because for me, when I left uni and did what I did, like the world of studying versus the world of actually doing it is completely different.
Yes.
So what do you think? What do you think is going to
Well,
happen when you leave and you're going to try and do the journalism thing? Where do you think you'll end up, and where do you think you'll end up politically as well? Because if I know your aim is to try and be neutral and respect the code of ethics, but at some point, I think you kind of fall into the groove of being on some side of the political spectrum.
yeah,
Like when you start like getting a job and things.
I don't know. Because I mean, the point of me having a a YouTube channel is so that I can learn by experience while also learning via books. That's I did this so that I can get experience, working within, with audiences and being comfortable in front of a camera and being able to kind of stitch together facts and stitch together, my thoughts in a clear way. I mean, that's the reason why I have this channel. It's mostly for my own sake, and obviously, if other people like it, that's great. So I have no idea. I don't really see myself doing the same, the whole traditional media, the same exact thing, the whole work in a newspaper kind of thing, the work at a a local news station for years and then move up to national.
Do you reckon you'll set up something similar to Rebel, like on YouTube?
I don't know. I have no idea what the future holds, but I see myself more obviously within the alternative media standpoint.
Right.
Kind of.
How do you define alternative? Just so
not traditional.
Like not like the established
yes.
sort of media outlets.
Yes. Not more internet based, basically.
Right. Okay.
More international based and less reliant on staying in one specific place to do things. And so that's one of the things that that's what I really see myself doing. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm trying to give myself practice with doing this sort of thing and figuring out how to balance certain aspects of being a journalist. And I'm not a journalist now, but I'm learning to be one, and so I'm incorporating that within what I do, and making sure to kind of I guess I don't know, I guess learning to do this in a proper way. And I'm not really sure where I see myself.
I mean, I think in your position you could call out other people that quite easily then, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, have you done that already? I haven't checked much of your channel out, to be honest.
I haven't. Well, with school, I haven't had a lot of time to do a lot of things. So unfortunately, that's one of the problems that I have, in that I obviously haven't had a chance to make a lot of videos, and but I do see myself kind of calling out bullshit when I see it, because I don't like when people bullshit other people and lie to other people and are hypocrites. It's certainly not what I call something I enjoy. I don't like to see people being hypocrites, basically. So I do, and I obviously that's what I would like to do.
I just saw Christy Winters in the chat saying, calling everyone out disgusting.
Fake Christy Winters.
Is it fake?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. It's hard to tell.
Christy has an I at the end of her name, and also she's doing a live stream with Fuck Stash Rollins.
Right. Yeah. What? I like, if of all things, why put a video on your video of yourself like almost naked playing guitar?
Oh my God.
You're inviting yourself to be completely trashed.
Yeah. And also, why not
In the
watch?
circles we're involved with, you're asking someone to take the piss out of you, big time.
Yeah, and also watching, and also not watching the content about you by people you consider to be friendly with you, because by all means, he considers me to be friendly with him, when in reality, I introduce him as, Fuckstash, because I think he's a tremendous idiot, and so that's it's hilarious that he thinks that we are friendly when in reality, I'm not really friendly.
Is he wishful thinking?
I suppose. I don't know. I have no idea.
It does lend its theory is like why like a lot of males become feminists.
I think I think that a lot of them think that I can still be saved. Even though I actually came to the anti-side because I was a feminist before, and then I stopped being one. So
oh, you were a feminist before. What happened? I'm curious.
Yes. Well, I just gradually became red-pilled.
I hit it and quit it.
Yeah. I basically, it was gradual. It wasn't like a wake up and suddenly I'm not anymore. And I wasn't that bad, but I was pretty social justicey. I'd spent a lot of time on Tumblr, so you can imagine.
Right. Okay.
What?
Getting your information from that, it's going to be yeah. It's kind of like what like Cassie J went through then similarly, because if she had to follow her like her journalistic integrity first.
Yeah.
And then that led her to like deconvert. And it's like, deconversion. This is the thing with the anti-SJW crowd, is that deconversion from an ideology takes a long time.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't happen overnight because of a pornage video.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that's kind of like setting up the miscommunication.
And typically there's overcorrection there, because I went from being a kind of SJW progressive type for a little bit of time. I grew up pretty conservative. And so I, went from being that progressive kind of liberal, college student kind of thing to reading InfoWars for a little bit of time. And then when I realized that was so stupid, I kind of ended up in the middle, which hopefully that's, where you get, hopefully that overcorrection is where you're getting a lot of the alt-right people in right now. Hopefully. But no, I think that it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. It takes debate, it takes discussion, it takes and it takes being friends with the person. It takes being nice to the person, and not too nice. You need to be, harsh and critical, but you need to it needs to be proper. Oh, Christy Winters is back. Changed their name to the proper spelling. Good. Now you know how to spell your name, Christy. Good.
Clever
for you.
Girl.
No, but I think that that's one thing that I'd like to see. I'd like to see less of. Obviously, ponage is fun.
It's fun. I enjoy it. I love channels like Bearing and
yes.
And Andy Warski and I enjoy them. They're fun. They're entertaining. But I don't know how much they contribute to the the conversation going one side. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that's a fair thing to say, but I would say I fully support them and their right to make fun of other people, including myself.
Yeah.
And just have riding on that like that lol cow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times it's less for those who are being criticized and made fun of, and more for the benefit of the normies, those who are in the middle of things and don't really think about things, and the entertainment factor is important because with pure data, with the sort of TLDR kind of stuff, Um, teal deer, not whatever. That's sort of data-driven specific stuff. That's kind of for that's for the upper levels of red pilling. No, but it takes a lot of it takes entertainment for normal average people who don't really think much of this stuff and kind of are a bit
yeah, because I show this kind of stuff to friends of mine that are just not in this sphere whatsoever, and they just get a good laugh out of it. They just don't think about the massive overall arching context of this sort of like culture clash. They just think of it as like, look at that effing idiot, just look at him just like being a complete twat and not making a coherent argument and not like bringing anything new to the table or just completely spurging out.
Yeah. And that kind of, it, a lot of times it does lead to, the entertainment factor does lead to learning more. And that's basically kind of where I, ended up in, that's how I kind of ease myself into that. And so I think that it's discrediting the entertainment factor entirely is wrong to do, because it does serve a purpose. It serves a important purpose, but a mix is the best way of doing things. And so, I mean, obviously, certain people are better at doing certain things. Certain people are better at pure research and pure data, and
which I enjoy a little bit. Like not all the time, because if you have to have a balance of having fun. It's sort of like Jeff's channel. He's like half like taking the piss out of people and half like serious stuff. I mean, I watched his video today on faith healing. It's fucking horrendous.
Oh my god!
Did you see it?
Yes, the one from yesterday.
Yeah.
That made me angry. I got very, very angry.
Yeah.
I had to stop it at like at the half of it, because I was like, nope, and I had to revisit it a little bit later because I was like, I can't. No, but yeah, I mean, that's why I like channels like Jeff's, because they give a good mix of entertainment and very good information, and that's what I plan to do with my channel. I don't have a lot of time to do so.
Sure. Me neither. I'm just having like a procrastination session.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm really enjoying my time. It's fine.
And a mixture between the entertainment, the data, and also discussion. Opening yourself up to discussion with a whole host of people on a large variety of subjects is vital. And I think that and it's not just, you need to search out people that you disagree with on certain things, and make sure that you kind of make sure that you can.
Oh, careful! Guilt by association.
Yeah.
You're seeing all these people liking Richard Spencer's tweets and stuff, and then you don't know if they're shit posting or hate watching or actually taking it seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get a mixture of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
make sure you don't do the whole Dave Rubin thing where you keep saying that you're a libertarian, classical liberal kind of guy, but then you only have
taking Alex Jones seriously is kind of crossing the line.
Yeah. Yeah. And not an ironic, like, I know this guy isn't serious, but we're gonna interview him anyways kind of way. But it was
that was odd. That was odd. That was really, really odd. I mean, I didn't watch it, but like I knew what happened. I was just like, this guy had a lot of trust, and he had a lot of like backing and support to being sort of like center left. And now he's like, I can understand him denouncing the left as it like completely illiberal, but staying true to his core principles. But then I thought he was joking about the Prager thing. I thought he was just saying like, I denounce the left in general. not like I denounced the left, now I'm right. I didn't think he went that far. I thought it was sort of like, you know, I just saying that the left is a bit nuts now. I need to bring back the left and just be, you know, more or less in the center, just trying to discover what's going on and promote these values.
Yeah.
Now he's gone to the right, and now he's gone Alex Jones. What
weird.
the fuck's happened? It's
I
really
don't-
weird.
I don't know what Dave Rubin is on right now. I have absolutely no idea.
It's all about, you know, melting the snowflakes rather than actual debate.
And that's I think that's something that needs to stop. And I understand that, you know, people are obviously free to do what they want to do.
Oh, sure.
But you know,
still gives us rights to criticize what they're doing.
Exactly. My suggestion with things is that I think that focusing entirely on you know, wrecking the SJWs it's first of all, it's fizzling out. It's starting to become less and less of a thing.
And the well's becoming dry.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I like the recent examples that I can think of is like Andy Warski going, where is everything?
Yeah.
and then you've got Bering changing over his tactics to vegans and Irish fighters in his recent videos.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I can see these channels just going towards just general entertainment, which is not a bad thing because you can get a lot more audience that way, and you can get more money and more revenue, and everything's hunky dory. But like currently, they're running out of stuff.
And that's a problem with having a bunch of people going towards a certain, I guess, objective for a while. That it eventually you've taken that out of other people, and you're kind of left with nothing, and it just gets boring after a while. It gets repetitive, you know, the wage gap, the patriarchy, that sort of stuff.
It gets predictable.
Yeah. And it just kind of it just repeats itself. And so I think that focusing on different things and also focusing and kind of internalizing things and looking inward is sort of the way that things are going now. I think that's the way that things are headed towards. So I mean, hopefully, that it will eventually be a good thing. I don't
know. What do you think about like with your journalistic approaches towards Candid? Can you go into that a bit more? Like, I saw a few tweets that you're sharing with your photos of class, but could you explain that a bit more and how Candid have crossed the line in some aspects?
Well, ethically, they've definitely crossed a lot of line, and I can see. I mean, a lot of people criticize Harmful for taking it too personally, you know, what happened or what has happened. But obviously, I think that he has a right to.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone went after my family and they're not involved in the slightest in anything that's going on YouTube.
Yeah.
If anyone fuck with my family, I feel exactly the same.
I think that I would be worse. I think that it would be so much. I feel like I would, you know, I wouldn't have taken it as, you know, as objective as he did. But it certainly has a right to do exactly what he's done, because it's a real line that was crossed. But
did you find it really weird that on Amazing Atheist's rebuttal video, nothing was mentioned about his mother?
Yeah, I think that was
really really like suspect.
Yeah. And I think that it needs to be, and that's one of the problems, is that I think it needs to be acknowledged by everyone who wants to, you know, approach the subject, needs to acknowledge that there is a reason why he's going at this from a very, in a very, you know, certain way. He's not going at it as, you know, completely from a subjective point of view. But I think that there has been a very crucial lack of separation between like I said before, the editorial and business side. And of course, YouTubers are not journalists. These, shoe skeptic, amazing atheists, they're not journalists. But if they want to be the source of information and sort of, give information to other people about certain subjects, they need to make sure that they keep a certain amount of integrity. And that was
sure,
lost.
especially if you've got an audience that relies on your trust of you being skeptical.
Yes. And that was one of the biggest lines crossed, in that you can't call yourself a skeptical person. You can't call yourself an objective person who only looks at the facts and ignore the bad parts of a website that you're reviewing, and sign a contract that makes it so that you can't. That is incredibly unethical to do if you want to have any sort of credibility at all, regardless of whether or not you are giving the news or you're giving, even just opinion. You need to make sure that you need to make sure that and you also need to be very transparent about things. You can't just go on and be shady and silent about the things that you're doing. And that's you need to say what you're doing when you're doing it, because if people trust you for certain things, you need to make sure you're trustworthy.
Sure. And usually the things that the way trust works is that you have to provide that first. You have to provide like the platform for people to trust you, because you have to earn people's trust first. You don't demand it the other way around just because if you've got Candid on your side.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I think that and I think the problem a lot of people have with these, and the reason why it feels so personal in certain cases by the audience, and I can see why it would be, is because I think a crucial level of trust was broken in regards to that situation. I think that they trusted, say, Armored Skeptic or Shu or the Amazing Atheist. They trusted them to be objective and not be shady. They trusted them to not take, under the table deals, but they did. And they didn't disclose the information they needed to. So
yeah, I mean, the thing that made me come out the woodwork was seeing Harmful on Sargon stream, and how much there wasn't like open transparency of what's gone on behind the scenes. I mean, I don't have proof of what's gone on behind the scenes, but it was a definite impression that something is not right. You see what I mean? Like in that stream, it was basically like Harmful going, so you're basically talking about groupthink. Yeah. And it's just like, oh shit.
Solidarity. And it's
solidarity. Yeah.
For the sake of some mythical culture war that you're going for.
I didn't even want to mention that this stream because otherwise people think I'm a bit obsessed.
Yeah.
But like, I tried to stay away from that and like guide around it a little bit. but yeah, there is this like insipid idea of this culture war is just, to me,
and it's not the most important thing. It's basically putting it above everything else and putting it above making sure that your audience trusts you and making sure that you're actually giving true information. It's all about the culture war. It's all about the
culture war.
Exactly. It's all about the ends do not justify the means, especially if there is no end in sight.
I suppose you saw my video on this.
No.
No, oh, you should. You should. I've basically detailed everything you've just said. Like, there's a lot more in there that you probably enjoy, but like, and I also started the hashtag my culture war as well. That's picking up steam. Basically the point of that hashtag is for like anyone who starts saying bullshit in the name of it, like
Yeah.
left or right. Left or right. That's where you're going to put the thing to catalog it for people to see their own biases.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I started that, and that seems to be taking a life on its own on YouTube, on YouTube and on Twitter.
I think that there needs to be a discussion on whether or not the ends justify the means, and and that's the side that Sargon. I mean, that's kind of the root, I think, of the issue that's happening right now with all the candid stuff, is that I think Sargon thinks that the ends, always justify the means. That if you betray the trust of your audience, as long as you are still fighting the good fight and trying to change the hearts and minds and wreck the SJWs, then everything you do is justified.
Yeah,
and I don't believe so. I think that you need
I.
to have. I think that you need to have integrity. I think that you need to be trusted, and so I think that's one of the crucial differences that this community is kind of coming to light, and so I think that
then you get the opposite of SJWs. You get culture justice warriors.
Yeah.
And you basically grow into what you hate.
Yeah.
But like another version of it, but like, there is some differences. It's not like they're 100% the same, but they are as fervent would probably be the best way to put it. Like they're as adamant as each other.
Well, I mean, that's
the issue. It's not like they're adamant for their policies, but if you try and question them on it, they'd just be like, "Well, I want you to agree with me. I want you to agree with me." They're not willing to go, let's just have, well, maybe they are willing to, but more so than the SJWs, I would say. But they are pushing a similar sort of narrative-based agenda. Not the same agenda, but an agenda nonetheless, if you see what I mean.
And I think that I mean, I haven't been watching all of this. I'm relatively new to the whole, whatever. And so I've kind of gathered that I don't think Sargon really likes ideologues, but I think he's become an ideologue of his own.
Sorry, that just makes me laugh. That just makes me laugh. But yeah, it's sort of like I noticed the starting of it.
Yeah.
And that's where I came out and said, "Oi, you, no." Stop it.
If you, I mean, hopefully someone who previously believed in and looking at the objective truth and finding the truth, that's one of the things that I don't like to watch Sargon sometimes, because it just gets a bit old after a while.
It's like graining on you a little bit.
Yeah, it's like and nothing against him. It's just
harping on about the same shit.
Yes.
It's like, this is why I said to him in some tweets that, like, I said to him, like, you're just trying to stay relevant with this culture war thing, because I was thinking to myself, if you didn't talk about the culture war and SJWs, what else would you talk about?
Yeah, and you would have to alienate half your audience.
And the revenue.
Yes, and that is exactly what the problem is. Is that which one is more important? Is the ethics more important? Is keeping your integrity no matter what important, or is the money important? And that
it's kind of similar of like, sorry, I didn't interrupt. It's kind of similar, like, a band getting a record deal.
Yes.
It's like, do you sell out your music and then they allow them to tell you what to do because you need to change your music to fit their taste to sell it, to be more marketable?
Yeah.
Or do you say, no, we're going to do it ourselves and we're going to try and, do it the harder way, but it'll be more rewarding?
Yeah.
And the current issue that I see is that he's stuck with his patrons and his audience, that if he decides to do a switcheroo and starts going complete left, which he possibly could, because he's a tactician. In his words, he's a
Yeah.
tactician. You don't know what he's thinking because he's tactile.
Yeah, I think that in my opinion, I think that Sargon needs to remember the plot a little bit, because I think that he's kind of and not the plot, because I think he's kind of becoming a bit ridiculous about the plot. I think that the plot is ruling his life now, and I think that he needs to take a step back and.
I just want to call him Papa Sargon, no, Papa Smurf, because of his beard. He reminds me of Papa Smurf. I want to see some Papa Smurf memes with Sargon's face like photoshopped on it.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Can you do that?
I don't know why, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to call him Papa Smurf if I ever go on live stream. That'd be hilarious. I'll just be the reference to him as Papa Smurf, just to quell his ego a little bit. Just be like a little bit of fun.
I think that he needs to maybe take a little bit of a break, because
everyone's saying that. Everyone's saying that he needs a holiday.
I think he's just getting a bit crazy. He's going crazy. I can tell. Okay, for his own good. And everyone needs a break every once in a while, and he hasn't. I don't think he's had one in a very long time.
Oh, dude! Like after I was just like talking, like, getting replies on Twitter, 600 responses later after 10 minutes. Like, imagine what that does to someone. Just like on his level with 600,000 subscribers, like close to. Having that on Twitter just constantly ping, 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 ping. Oh my God. Even that like little taste of it, just, it was just so draining. It's just like, I don't know how anyone can sustain that.
This one time I had a poll, which was pineapple versus no pineapple on pizza. And it got retweeted a bunch of times, and I got like, basically got like 20,000 or something like that, like answers to it. And so I had to turn off Twitter for like 2 days, because I got nothing but that over and over and over again.
And then it's just like an onslaught on the eyes, and like, I was speaking to Spino, and he basically said, Twitter's giving me ADHD.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrid.
Yeah, which actually, one of the things that a lot of people criticize me is like I don't really keep a good I don't keep the plot, I guess, a good direction when I'm talking, especially when I'm talking alone, because I do have ADHD and I can't actually focus on anything hardly ever.
I think I've got the other side of it, like it's like, it's not hyperactive disorder, it's like the other way. But you're still hyperactive, but in a slower way. I like the attention span's not there, but you're not as like, hyper. That's why I think I have. So I notice words like, was it like metastasis or something like that, and I just like, yes, I like that word for some reason. Yeah, I'm a bit random, but anyway, I think we should just like open the floor to some questions from the chat, and then after that we'll call it quits.
Yes, I think so. Let's see. Do you have any questions, chat?
Related to the topic.
Not related to anything having to do with me and my pants, not having to do with anything about the Holocaust. I will not answer any of those. We will not.
I can't believe you have to preface that.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah. That's not having to do with the fan fiction, because I'm ignoring that.
I've heard stories, but not your fan fiction, but just in general. Like, I've seen like Jeff and like Bearing read out.
Oh no, this one person has made three whole chapters to a fan fiction. It's an erotic fan fiction about me.
Did you read it or?
Yes. Okay.
Do you want to expose that? Because that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, it's disturbing. But here's a real question. What do you think of publications not publishing updates or corrections? Well, obviously, it's the ethical thing to do. It's the correct thing to do. And I think that one of the biggest problems is that they don't properly publicize them. They don't properly, because once you publish a factually incorrect whatever story, and people read it, and you publish a correction, no one's going to read that. Hardly anyone is going to read that, and hardly anyone's going to care. And especially if it's a very crucial correction, then I think that publications need to order and publish corrections better than they do. I think that they need to publicize them much more than they do.
I think it'd be cool if they had like a better alert system, sort of like in your subscriber feed. You just say, "Oh, they've just updated this video."
Yeah,
that'd be better. Let's see a question here. That girl, any thoughts on how YouTube moderates their site? They deleted Atheism Unstoppable's main channel.
Well, I think that YouTube Heroes is having a bit of a problem. I think that that's causing a lot of the problem. I think that mass flagging things and the automated system that comes with it, and the fact that YouTube is lazy and doesn't really like to fix those problems very quickly, especially when it comes to those who they perhaps disagree with ideologically. I think that that is a big problem. I really don't know much about the Atheism is Unstoppable's channel thing. I know that one of them had to do with a video that was a response to someone who responded to the promo that he gave me negatively, and then he did a response to this guy's awful video. And then that was.
I thought that video that he did on you was kind of cringy. What do you think of it?
Well, it gave me 3,000 subscribers.
That's good.
Yeah. That's basically as far as I like to go into it publicly.
Yeah, but I would say like it did look a bit cringy.
Yeah, it did give me the comments on that video were some fun times for my self-confidence. Oh yeah. Is there a problem with consumers being indifferent to those corrections and updates? I think, yes, there is a problem because, and I think that stems from the fact that I think that publications need to make sure that what they are publishing is factually correct. And that obviously is a problem because in this day and age, with the way that information goes so very quickly, things are less likely to be vetted because they want to be first. Everyone wants to be first, and everyone wants to publish things the first so that everyone will read it. But that does come with a problem in that a lot of times there are crucial facts missing or altered in the original product that no one reads because no one reads the corrections. And I don't really know what to do to fix that. It's kind of been something that's been a problem for a while. So I'm not sure how much people can be, I'm not really sure how much people can be, that can be fixed. It really depends.
There's another question here. Do you think that there is bias against anti-SJW channels?
Well, I don't really like to put stock in conspiracy theories, but it kind of seems like there is. But I don't know if it's direct or kind of a preconceived notions kind of thing, that you have this idea that this is a certain way and that there's a real push to shut down anti-SJW channels.
The thing is, though, I think in that situation, when you have anti-SJW channels responding to the crazy shit that SJWs do, SJWs aren't inherently calling any, like, well, they are being dicks to other people, but they're not doing it specifically to anyone on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the anti-SJWs holding them accountable, but because of that held accountability could be seen as sort of harassment in the YouTube terms and service guidelines. That's where the issue is. It's not. It's because of it's like if you did like a general idea, like say, oh, how the patriarchy isn't, as is. It's not how feminists see it. That wouldn't get flagged because that's not like offending any of the YouTube's terms and services. But if you went to a channel, specifically a person, and called them out directly with a large following, I'm not saying that you're responsible for a large following, but if you do that with a large following, they are going to receive a dogpiling. No matter if you say you're not responsible, it's going to happen.
And that is an issue. That is something that that is a real issue, because I mean, obviously you don't want dogpiling, you don't want bullying, and it's not it's not up to them. They're not responsible, but it is an issue because people are going to do things no matter what. I mean, if Bering literally said every 2 seconds that don't go bully this person, then
it'll still happen.
It will still happen. And I know for a fact that he's recently started to not put links in the description if he believes that the channel is going to be susceptible to either taking the criticism very negatively or is going to get a lot of unwarranted criticism. So, I mean, I think that there are certain things that certain people have done and are doing to curb that, but people will always find a way to harass people, and that is disgusting, in my opinion. But certainly they're right. But yeah, that can be taken by the YouTube staff that to be harassment. And I think that one of the problems is selective enforcement of the rules.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone has any proof of that, though. But
yeah, I mean, it's all hearsay and it's all conspiracy. And I don't really like to put a lot of stock into conspiracy. If there is proof, cold hard proof of something, then I mean, I will definitely look at it. But I'm less likely to obviously look at something that there is no proof for, because there is no proof.
And the other thing is that I'm trying to think of doing a video comparing dogpiling and the Milgram experiment. Have you heard of the Milgram experiment?
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking of comparing the two and drawing parallels that people are just sheep in general.
Yeah, well, yes, they basically are. Most people are. Sheep will wake up.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems, is that a lot of people don't want to think for themselves. A lot of people want to, and if you look at, and this is something that I don't like, and this is nothing on any of their audiences, but when I look at the chats in a lot of different, like in the live chats of a lot of different content creators, like Bering, who I consider a friend, I see a lot of yes men.
Just edgy for the sake of edgy.
Yes. And I see a lot of people that literally just repeat the things that he jokes about in his videos. And I understand that, like, you know, they can do that, but there's no real independent thought there. Unfortunately, you can't really help that. Yes. And you can't really help that. And so that's nothing on any of the people that are doing it or the people that are the entertainers. But I think that people are typically more likely to be sheeple than and then they are to be independent thinkers, which I mean, it's just that's why you need to make sure that, and that's why it's best to have maybe one news source that people can watch that is 100% completely objective and perfect, perfectly never factually incorrect, and is 100%. It's
not likely going to happen.
It's not possible. It's certainly not possible. But that would be case scenario, because then everyone could get all the facts and everything and be 100% correct.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
So nice, so that you wouldn't have, we wouldn't have the people talking about how how all them Muslims are all terrorists, but then you wouldn't have all the people that are like, none of the Muslims, none of them.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have, you would have people who actually, obviously, best case scenario for anything would be everyone thinking objectively and thinking with their minds and not with their hearts about things, and not with their preconceived biases about things, but not really possible in some ways. So,
yeah, I think we should wrap it up here.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you'd like to chat at any other point, I would love to.
Sure.
And
I bet it's like catharsis for all that studying you've done.
Yes. But thank you for everyone for watching, and I will see you the next time I see you, I suppose.